Good morning, everyone. I'm glad you could join me. I thought I would be on at 1 o'clock today, but 10 o'clock it is. I'm Bob Jackman. I'm the teacher virtuous facilitator here at the Charles J. Andrew Youth and Family Treatment Center in Cheshire. And of course, that's where I am again today. Hope you're enjoying the 1st of July holiday. The topic I want to talk to you about today is the power of language that can shape our culture. We're on our second strategy, which is the strategy of speaking the language of the virtues. Okay, so this section, it says, the language of the virtues can help change a family culture in a way that enhances strong family values. You know, with language, we have the power to empower people, especially children. We have the power to discourage as well. And of course, we want to use that particular power to empower, all right? Virtues themselves provide a simple language of spirituality, of mastery and meaning, which parents may use to acknowledge effort and growth in their children. When children are acting on their lower impulses, parents can also use the language of virtues to call them back to the best of which they are capable in that moment. Rather than label a child as good or bad, a great kid or a problem child, the virtues themselves become the standard by which children can bring themselves to accountability, the standard against which they can assess their actions. For example, in a home where the virtues language is used, a child may think, "Today I had trouble with patience, but I was helpful when I set the table." The virtues could become the most common words used in family interactions. And wouldn't that be great if we could all have our families, speaking the language of the virtues? Obviously, everyone in the family, from a toddler to a grandparent, can benefit from the gentle and honest scrutiny of the virtues. It is very empowering to decide together the core virtues which your family values most. It could be respect, it could be responsibility, accountability, it could be cleanliness, whatever it is that your family chooses to be your core virtues. And not every family would be the same, You may decide to become a model of peace in the world by creating a peace zone in your house, finding ways to resolve conflict which are an expression of peacefulness. One family with young children has a peace rug, which they pull out when consultation is needed to resolve angry feelings. You may decide that service is one of your core virtues and create a special savings account for gifts to needy people. A family living in a city that becomes very cold in winter, the city that becomes very cold in winter, it could be like, Cheshire, Goose Bay, any of those areas. We get very cold in the wintertime, don't we, right? So they consulted together about what they would like to do to be of service. One frigid, wintry day, they set out to go around the city to observe people living on the street, okay, to find out what they needed. When they got home from this special tour, the father asked, "What did you notice?" The 5-year-old said, "I saw them shivering and rubbing their hands together. Their hands are cold." "What do you think they need?" "Mittens," she shouted with excitement. The family went around collecting mittens from secondhand stores and then walked through the streets, giving them out to homeless people. Now, I've heard stories of people gathering up blankets as well to do the same thing, right? But it was so nice that the family decided to do service that way, and that the little one said, "Oh, they need mittens," and they actually went about, gathering up mittens for those people. I can only imagine the smile on the faces of those homeless people when they were given the mittens, and of course, how warm their hands were, right? So based on that information, now from the Family Virtues Guide, of course, from Linda Cavell Popoff, based on that information, you can only imagine what virtue I would have selected for today, right? It begins with an S. Yes, of course. It's the virtue of service. So let's have a look and see what the virtue of service is, okay? Here's the quote. And this one happens to come from Hinduism again, but the quotes come from various religions. Devote thyself to my service. Do all thine acts for my sake, and thou shalt attain the goal. So what is service? Service is giving to others and wanting to make a difference in the lives of others. Helping other people is one of the best ways to serve God. Having an attitude of service means looking for ways to be of help rather than waiting to be asked. The needs of others are as important to you as your own needs. When you are service-oriented, you anticipate people's needs and then think of ways to help them, like the little girl did with the mittens, right? You do things for other people just to be helpful, not because you hope they will pay you or reward you. You do things just because you care. When you work with a spirit of service, you give a job your best effort. You don't just do the least amount possible. You make a real contribution. And that's when I think about a chore list. A chore gives a negative connotation. Service is a positive one. So when you say, your chore today will be to wash dishes, it's like saying, well, I know you don't want to wash dishes. Someone has to do it, so you are going to do it. It's your chore for the day. And so you grumble and have to go do the dishes. But if we're done in a vein of service, it's like, hey, I'll do the dishes because we all need plates to eat off, right? We all need glasses to drink from. So I'll do the dishes, and when you do it in a vein of service, then you're probably going to give it your best effort and you're going to have really clean dishes, right? That's what service is. So why should we practice service? If people didn't care about serving one another, everyone would be on his own. If someone was in trouble or needed help, no one would be there to help unless she was going to be paid or had some selfish motive. Without a desire to be of service, people have to be pushed or nagged to do their part. With an attitude of service, we create love and happiness around us. Others feel cared for. They can depend on us to be responsive when something needs to be taken care of. We do our work with heart. We give it our best. When people are service-oriented, they accomplish everything that needs to be done without anyone having to ask. People who want to be of service can change the world. Wow, you can see how important that particular virtue is, eh? And why we certainly need to be practicing that one. So how do you practice it? When you want to be service-oriented, watch other people to see what help they might need. Then do something to help. Look for little ways to make life easier or happier for others. If someone looks lost or lonely, go up and ask if you can help. Think of little ways to serve your family by doing extra chores or just doing thoughtful little things. You could do things to serve the earth by remembering to recycle, reduce things you use, and reuse old things. I think we can still recycle in this area, so that's good. Instead of always buying new ones, you recycle some things, right? You could make a compost pile in your backyard or plant a tree where one has been cut down. When you focus on service, there are always lots of wonderful things you can do. Things which will make a difference in the world. When you work, do it with a spirit of service. Give it the best you can. Do it for the sake of God. Remember that God placed us here to take care of one another and the earth. So there's the virtue of service. Absolutely amazing. And of course, signs of success. You know you're practicing the virtue of service when you want to make a difference in the world. And I always say, to make a difference in the world, you don't have to worry about what's going on in the United States. You make a difference in your own heart, and make a difference in your own relationship, make a difference in your own family, and that spreads out to community and beyond. But you have to start in your heart. Congratulations, you're being of service when you look for opportunities to be of service. When you think of thoughtful things to do to help your family and friends. When you work with enthusiasm. When you don't wait to be asked when something needs doing. When you do your part to recycle, reduce, or reuse. And here's an affirmation. One you can stick on the fridge with all the rest you have, right? I look for opportunities to be of service. I do not wait to be asked. I am thoughtful of others. I make a difference in the world. So, I guess you could go around town today and, like the little girl did, and see if there's some way you could be of service to somebody, right? You know. This is a quote from Sacred Moments by Linda Kavelin Popoff. Just want to read this one to you. All effort and exertion put forth by man from the fullness of his heart is worship, if it is prompted by the highest motives and the will to do service to humanity. Wow. This is worship. To serve mankind and to minister to the needs of the people. Service is prayer. And that's from Abdu'l-Baha. So, the good things that you do from your heart, the services that you provide from your heart, with no intent of getting paid for it or to be praised for it, but just from your heart, doing a service with enthusiasm, is the same as sitting down and reading a prayer or reciting a prayer. Okay, so service is prayer. I want to read that one to you because I really think that's so important, okay? So important. So let's not have ulterior motives when we're helping somebody. And says, you owe me, right? Do a service for the sake of doing the service. And it'll be marked up in your book as prayer, okay? This one by Helen Keller, a little quote here. I long to accomplish a great and noble task, but it is my chief duty to accomplish small tasks as if they were great and noble. See, she's saying the tiniest little thing you do for somebody, it doesn't have to be a great, big, monstrous thing that everybody can see. It can be a tiny little thing. And she says, that's the same as a big thing. You accomplish it as if it were a big thing, right? Ross Pameter, here's what he says. The need for devotion to something outside ourselves is even more profound than the need for companionship. The need for devotion to something outside of ourselves is even more profound than the need for companionship. We all must have some purpose in life, for no man can live for himself alone. So, that could be God, the Creator, could be Jesus, could be whoever it is in your life that you hold devotion for, So I thought that was important to point out as well. Now, I already mentioned the chore list and the service list. I always like to refer to it as a service rather than a chore. But here's something you can think about. How do you feel when you do something of service for someone else? How do you feel when you do something of service for someone else? Now discuss this one in your family. Name 3 ways you are of service to your family. Name 3 ways that you're of service to your family. And how do you show you care about others? How do you show you care about others? Okay, so that's our virtue lesson, I guess, for today. And I guess we can all maybe think of some services that we could do, to help people. When you donate to various charities as well, like, for example, the Salvation Army, I think, is one. There's the Cancer Society. There's, I don't know, there's some other places around too, that you can donate to. And then they spend their money to look after, homeless people and people that need food. So that's also a service when you donate to various organizations. And it doesn't have to be money. It could also be your time in terms of volunteering, right? So think about those things. And until Friday, I'll have another live on Friday. And it'll be at 10 o'clock in the morning. So take care, stay safe, and let's keep the coronavirus out of our communities, okay? So until Friday, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you then. Bye for now.